Hello, beautiful humans from around the world. Welcome to the Extreme Monogamy Podcast, where commitment is sexy, monogamy is juicy, and choosing one partner for life is what truly makes you happy. It's time to get inspired by real talks about building a healthy, loving, and committed relationship. Thank you for being here. Enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Extreme Middle Podcast, the only place in the internet where you get common sense without an agenda. My name's Nassor. I'm the autistic hypnotist turned marketer, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-hosts, Isabella, Sophia, and Charles Cohen. If you're tuning in for the first time, we have a very, very interesting set of people here. We have three different generations. Charles is Gen X, Isabella is Gen Z, I'm a Millenial. We have different ethnicities. We have Asian, Caucasian, half Arabian, like the whole Arabian room in my blood. We have me as a neurodivergent with autism. Then we have non-neurodivergent people. Charles and Isabella both have been married. I am currently married. Charles has children, Isabella and I don't. So we have a very varied way of life paths that we bring together. And we want to give our dear viewers and listeners different perspectives on what's going on in society, especially with a focus on relationships. Because as we can see, gender politics and different agendas out there, it's really fucking hard to connect to people. So let's get right into it. Isabella, I think you come from Shanghai, right? So there's probably a completely different view on relationships than for Charles, who is from America, or like me, where I'm born in Germany, but I was growing up in a Muslim household. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, China, it's more of a matriarchal society. The women, a lot of them make just as much, if not more, than the men.
Wow.
So the gender equality perspective that I came to America and learned about, it's like, I mean, I understand equal pay and equal rights, totally understand. However, I think there is a toxic level of, okay, women can replace men. Women don't need men. We can be on our own. Men are unnecessary. I totally don't get that. I still think it doesn't matter what your income level is. It doesn't matter what kind of roles you play. You grow together, you build a family together, and you stick with it. You commit, and then you try to make it work.
That is such an interesting take, because when you take a look at what the feminists are saying here, like it's almost like they want a matriarchal society, but what they are actually doing is disempowering women, because they tell them you are oppressed at the same time as you are better than everybody for some reason, right? And then you take a look at the extreme right-wing people, or sometimes even the not as much extreme right-wing people that says if the man is leading and if a woman is submissive, then the family unit is stronger. But what you just said is actually the opposite. We have a matriarchal society where people stick together no matter what. And what I would like to know there is, how does this work out? Are people trying harder to stick together, or are they just settling with their fate and like silently resenting each other? What's the role of the men in this matriarchal society then? How does it work?
Number one is social pressure. China, it's a country where people care a lot about, they call it face, meaning how people perceive you. And they think they lose face when they get a divorce. So they don't want to be seen as somebody who just couldn't make their marriage work. I think there's certainly couples that stay in their marriage just for the reason of having the family be seen as we're a good family, we have good social status, so we stick together even though we're not in love. And they're probably just living a not in love life, and that is pretty sad. I think there are certain couples that stick in there and try to make it work because they believe, okay, we have chosen each other. This is just how it's going to be. I can't give up. So we are going to keep trying. It doesn't matter if it takes years or decades, but we will keep trying. And this is just the way it is.
That is actually super powerful, because when you take a look at how it is in America, when you take a look at these podcasts where you have a few kind of still rational people, and then you have 10 OnlyFans girls that don't understand how the world works, all of them seem to be like, yeah, I can have as many men as I want. And then when they turn 30 or 40, they're like, oh shit, yeah, fucked up. Or like they feel completely incapable of connecting to any person, but they feel empowered by being online whores, kind of. Right. And this kind of empowerment is like the exact opposite of the empowerment that I'm hearing from you, where you said, like, we chose each other. It's like both make the decision to be together and make this work together and bond over differences. But marriage still has a value there. While here it's like the same thing, like there's no difference between a marriage and a normal relationship. If I don't like it, then I just like go, right? And yeah, it's a legal battle basically, but it seems to be very different.
It is. And ever since I came here, I heard that a lot of people see marriage as really just a social institution in America, which is great in some sense. You are in love, you don't have to get married, which I think is wonderful because that's not the same concept in China.
Yeah.
So that's not a Chinese thing?
No, if two people live together that they're not married, that's like no.
No from the family, no from society, no from...
Yeah.
Really?
Your family, your friends, it's not something you do.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially if you live together, that means you're committed partners. You need to be married.
You need to.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So how many of your friends growing up had relationships like that? Like any? Was there one? Is there like an outlier?
No,
none of them.
Wow. So you don't even date before you marry? Like how do you get together then? Like how does it work?
You can date. You just shouldn't, you're not supposed to move in together and live together.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Do you start dating early then and then you are together kinda, or do you start later? Because I heard that Asian parents are super strict. Pretty much until you're 18, no boys, and then as soon as you turn 18, why no children?
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's what drives so many of my friends crazy throughout middle school, high school. It's not only parents saying you cannot date, it's the teachers in school, they're monitoring students. So if they see this girl and this boy is talking too much or they're spending time alone, then they will actually talk to the parents, and the parents will have a conversation with the kids, be like, you just can't do it. So growing up, my parents never allowed me to even have any sort of personal relationship with any of my male classmates outside of a school context. And even in school, we didn't really talk. Boys and girls didn't really talk. We were together in the classroom. It was co-ed, but pressure from parents and teachers, of course. And then usually parents allow you to start dating after you get into a good college. So now they think, great, your future is set because you got into a good college, you're going to get a good job. So now you can start dating. And then, of course, as soon as they get out of college, okay, when are you getting married? When are you having kids? We need grandkids.
Damn.
Wow.
That is intense.
Yeah.
How was it for you, Charles, when growing? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. How was it for you?
How was it for me? Well, it's fascinating hearing about you. For me, I grew up with a deep appreciation for commitment because I think, and I don't know if it was just specific to my family, but it just seemed like, and maybe it's a generational thing, maybe because of my folks' generation, but there was this idea that when you commit, that's it, you commit. And it was not a, you commit and you figure out how to make it work, or you commit and you like you just have to stick with it. There wasn't like a, you commit and it was just, no, you commit and that's it. My folks are Jewish. For them, Judaism is a very big part of their identity. And so for them, that means that we must find a partner who is also Jewish. And so this was the structure. So no, it wasn't like anything arranged by any means, at least in a traditional sense, but it was, this is the next step. This is the kind of person that you go after, or this is what you're hoping to create for yourself. I recall from an early age, I had a lot of questions about that. It seemed very limiting in my mind. And I think that there was an expectation of, well, this is what our son's going to do. Like, this is how it's going to go. And it just was never, ever that way for me. In fact, there's like an old quip about Jewish men having the chromosome where they're wired to be not attracted to Jewish women. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that was just something that was born out of my generation and not my parents, because it certainly wasn't the case for them.
We have even more backgrounds now. That is so interesting. Since you were married before, did you marry then a Jewish woman?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I give my parents a lot of credit because they carried themselves with, I think, a lot of grace going through a situation which was probably very disorienting for them, because that was such an important thing for them and for the choices that they made with their relationships. And for me, it wasn't even just not a consideration. It was never even on my radar. Like, yes, this is something that I may or may not want to do. So, yeah. But I'm curious to know more about you, Adam, and the dynamics within the different cultures that you were growing up in.
I was lucky. My father is a Muslim. I'm not a Muslim anymore. I stopped believing in that when I was age 19, but I was raised Muslim. So I was raised with the thought of no sex before marriage. They also said no sex in the home of the parents. Even after I was 18, still no sex in the home of the parents. And I was also in a very specific position because my parents had the perfect love story. They are divorced today, but they had the perfect love story. My mom went to Africa on a holiday trip and pretty much came back married. Like that's the story they told us. And they have been together then for like 27 years. And it seemed perfect at the beginning. It wasn't later on. And in further episodes, we might dive deeper into that. But basically, they taught me that love at first sight is possible. And I thought that the first person I fall in love with should be the person I marry. And yeah, it took me 10 tries to find my wife. She's the 11th one. But and I also thought like, hey, as a Muslim, I can have 4 wives, right? And I can have multiple partners and stuff. I always was a monogamist. I never wanted to have more than one girlfriend. I never cared about that. But it was an interesting take to learn about that. And especially dating was different because I grew up in Bavaria. And Bavaria is like the best part of Germany. We even say we're not really Germans because everything you know about Germany, like Lederhosen, beer, Oktoberfest, is all Bavaria. Everything else of Germany has nothing to offer. Anything that is not the Nazi stuff that you think of Germany comes from Bavaria.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's pretty much that. And the thing is, Bavaria has a huge drinking culture. At age 14, if you didn't have your first beer yet, people are like, what's wrong with you? Right? And with 16, you're already allowed to go out until midnight and drink regular beer, and drinking age is lower. I mean, in America, it's like 21 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you had your first drink at 21 in Bavaria, they think you're mentally ill or something. It's really that. And that was hardcore because I grew up no alcohol, right? Because of the Muslim background. And I still, to this day, I uphold this, even though I'm not a Muslim anymore. I think it's a good thing to have. But dating worked like this. You go out, you get drunk, you find somebody, you talk to somebody, and then you see where it goes. So I tried to do the dating thing, but I was always the only one who wasn't drunk. And morally, to engage in anything with somebody who is not in their full mental possession, weird, right? And I also was raised with very traditional ways of dating, like courtship and being a gentleman and opening doors for women. You don't hit women. And back then, I always abide by it, but I always was wondering, why not? Because if she beats me or she hits me, why can't I hit back? Where's the fairness in this, right? So if you can dish it, you have to be able to take it, right? Whenever I found a girlfriend, it was always because of the way I proposed to myself. I met somebody in a normal conversation. I met a person, we bonded over similarities. And later, over time, when we saw all the Tinder coming up, that was so weird to me. I met my wife on a dating platform, not Tinder, but the normal hookup culture we have right now, it's insane. Like, I don't get it. The way I was raised, the culture itself was Arabic, but it was very moderate. So they allowed me to date. They allowed me to have girlfriends. They were not happy when I had my first time with 15. Absolutely not.
Did you discuss it with them? Did they just happen to find out?
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. So I was very religious at the time. And in Ramadan, where this is this month where you don't eat until nightfall, during the time, you're not even allowed to touch women that you're not married to. And so my girlfriend and I couldn't even touch her during that time. And I was super religious. I think it was our half-year anniversary or so, where we were in a cinema together. And it just came over me, hormones probably of a 16-year-old. And we tried it a little bit. It didn't really work. And then later, when we were at home, we tried it again. And yeah, I actually never had the sex ed talk. Like, the funny thing is this. First, autistic person, I didn't really get this stuff. Then in school, when we had sex ed, I was sick. So I didn't get that. And my mom told my dad to have to talk with me, but being a Muslim, he didn't really want to. So the only thing he told me is I'm not allowed to use condoms and not have sex before marriage. So what happened with my first time, I didn't have condoms. At the end of our relationship, there was a scare that it might have happened, right? It didn't, but yeah. But basically, I didn't even know that women bleed at the first time. And so on our white bed sheets, we suddenly had a red thing. And I was like, oh my God, my mom will realize that. She's so smart. And so I used a trick. My mom is very smart, but she knew I'm extremely clumsy. So I just spilled red tea that I had, that I was always drinking, on there. It's like, sorry, mom, I spilled the red tea there. And she didn't think of anything. And later then, when we had the pregnancy scare, then they got it, right? But they were
Oh,
very pissed. But yeah, that was the first time I had sex.
oh my goodness. Did you have the sex talk?
No,
No.
no, oh no. No. I never even heard my parents say I love you to each other. So
What?
no, they just don't. My friends don't
What?
hear their parents say I love you to each other either, even though they do, but they just don't communicate it.
Why?
My parents, the way they communicate they love each other is usually buying each other food or like making tea, you know.
So acts of service and gifts is a love language, kind of
Yeah,
then.
yeah, but they never really communicated anything.
Isabella is slowly but surely teaching me a little bit of Mandarin here and there. And I'm asking for, like, tell me what are things that I would say to you in a loving, romantic way. And she's like, yeah, there's not a whole lot of that in our language.
Wow.
Because I grew up in Shanghai till I was 18, but for middle school and high school, I was at an international boarding school in Shanghai. And then I came to the States after I was 18. So I have this two sides of influence. And I realized in my vocabulary, because nobody ever said anything to me that was romantic. So I didn't have that romantic Mandarin in my Mandarin vocabulary. So when I was trying to teach you, I'm basically having to translate English to Mandarin and say to you, okay, I'm teaching you this. I know it, that's what it means, but it sounds so weird because I never said it before and I've never heard it before.
Wow. That is very interesting. It was probably a culture shock for you, huh, Charles?
Yeah, it's just why it's so far out of my perspective. It's amazing, but I love it. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because it means that you have to be way more intentional with love, right? Because here, also in Europe or in America, where I realize it is often, hey, I love you. It is like thrown around so easily. When I grew up, it was like, if women have to say I love you first, it was seen as a failure of the man. So I was always trying myself to be the first one who says it. Today, it's like, if you say it first, you're in a weaker position, which is complete garbage, right? Why not tell somebody you love them first? I told my wife on the second date that I love her.
Wow.
Yeah. I knew it. Like, I knew it from the first time. I knew it immediately. And it worked. So in this case, then, what's your perspective as a couple? For you, Isabella, who wasn't really used to this romantic stuff, and for you, Charles, who did know it, how does this work out between you two? How does your love communication look like?
There's definitely not a lack at all. One of my top love languages is words of affirmation. Prior to being with you, I thought that meant verbal, but really an understanding that it's the combination of, yes, it is the verbal, but it's also the nonverbal. Like, how are you showing your affection? How are you showing your love? It's been an awesome learning experience for me too, because the words are wonderful, and how are your actions validating your words? It's part of the reason why it's so fascinating understanding how you grew up, and because you are so great at communicating verbally and non-verbally your affection, your adoration, and it's wonderful. My cup is overflowing so often, and so it's just so wonderful. So it's mind-blowing that, like, you've had to really own this for yourself and figure this out for yourself because you weren't exposed to it.
So when we take this as a conclusion, what would we tell people that are looking to date today? Because I think what we talked about here are specific principles that even go beyond cultures, go beyond ages, and go beyond anything ideological. What makes a relationship great in your opinion? Because you have a huge age difference, right? So what do you think is slight shade?
Isabella's way
Grandpa
older
Charles.
than me.
No, but jokes aside, what do you think makes a great relationship? Because both of you have been married before. And if you want to share why you are not married anymore to your previous partners and how you found together and how you are making it work, and what do you think makes a great relationship?
I think number one, you have to realize that when you are a happy person, when you are responsible for your own happiness, then you can expand your happy energy to your relationship. I think a lot of people feel incomplete on their own and they seek relationships to complete them. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on their partners, saying, okay, my happiness is dependent on how you show up, how you make me feel. Therefore, if I'm not happy, it must be something wrong with you. You didn't do this. You didn't say that. Therefore, I'm not happy. So in order for me to be happy, you have to fix these things. But that's not how it works. What I found is
Mm.
the more I can keep my own cup filled, then I can fill each other's cup so much better.
Mm.
That's one. Two, I think you have to really hold each other's heart. You have to care about your partner's heart as if it was your own. What that means is do unto others how you want to be treated. If you want your heart to be treated with care and tenderness, you have to treat your partner's heart with care and tenderness. It's not like, okay, I'm a woman, so you need to show up for my mood swings, but you're a man, so you have to fix that on your own. Like, it's not like that at all. We hold each other's heart both with tenderness. So I am extra respectful in the way that I communicate to you. I am extra considerate when I bring up topics with you. I'm caring about how you might feel versus just shoving things onto each other and be like, this is what it is. This is how I feel. You deal with it. So it's that. And it's definitely a team mentality. You have to stay as a team when you figure out solutions. It's not my problem or your problem. It's essentially our problem. So how can we both show up to find solutions and appreciate each other? Because a little appreciation goes a long way. Appreciation doesn't mean grand gestures. It doesn't mean Valentine's Day. You buy 100 roses and you take her out on a dinner date, on a cruise, and then for the rest of the year, it's just whatever.
We're one and done. That's it.
I love you one day a year, and the rest of you go fuck yourself.
There's a saying, if you find the right person, Valentine's Day is every day. I truly believe it's that little thing every day. It's every day. It's every morning. How do you greet each other? Throughout the day, how do you stay connected with each other? It's every night. How do you get back together and share your day? And every evening, how do you have a ritual that really connects you? Because happiness is not like one day I'm happy. Oh, I think a lot of people are. One day I'm really happy because you did this grand gesture for me. And the other days I'm not because you're not doing it. And it's an unrealistic expectation to say every day I'm doing some grand gesture. I'm writing you love notes. I'm sending you flowers every single day. Do that. You spread it out and you just keep that spark alive. And ultimately, you have to have the heart to really want to make it work. I want to feel good. I want to feel in love. Two people have to want it together at the same time. Because if only one person wants it, it just won't work.
I love when you said that it's not on one partner alone to dump the problems. Okay, you have to show up for me. I don't have to show up for you. And my happiness depends on how amazing you are. That's doomed to fail. Like, that's doomed to be toxic. I also love when you said, okay, be happy with yourself first, because otherwise the other person has to fill you up. But if they have nothing to give, and if they are abundant and just fill you up, you have nothing to give either. It's never going to be balanced. You either want to be better together, because on your own you're great, but together you're better than the sum of its parts. But if you just become one, if each of them is one half, and that half can't work on its own, it will never work.
Right.
Double your take on your side there.
Yeah, I have one last piece I want to say before I move on to you, which is an advice I gave to a lot of my friends, my girlfriends. They all want to find the dream guy, right? So I tell them, okay, a lot of people know you go through an exercise, you write down what you want out of them. They look this way, they do these things, they have these jobs, this is their character, their personalities. I want to feel like this, and yada, yada, yada. You have this dream guy vision. And instead of a lot of relationship advice or dating advice, okay, how do you get the guy? Instead, I tell them, what do you need to do to make yourself the type of woman that this guy will fall in love with?
Yes, boom. To be the person that can attract who you want to have, instead of being completely lazy and hoping that for some magical reason, like in a fucking Cinderella movie, the guy who can have everybody decides to get the 200-pound overweight woman that doesn't want to lift a finger around the house, do absolutely nothing, contribute absolutely nothing, and for some reason wants the perfect person. That doesn't work. Like,
exactly.
Yep, for sure.
As we promised, guys, common sense without an agenda. You heard it from the woman.
Just wanted to also reiterate what you said about the partnership mentality. And that's something that actually I'm experiencing within our relationship really for the first time. I think it's one thing to say, yes, we're going to have a partnership mentality. It's a whole other thing to actually apply that, because in a heated moment when I'm feeling triggered or you're feeling triggered, to still have that awareness or that guiding foundational principle of, wait, we're a unit. we're partners in this. So how do I detach myself from whatever is triggering me enough to come back and say, well, wait, what do I really want? Well, what I really want is this. What I really want is us. So I think it's such a great concept, and it can be such, for me, it was definitely a new thing, and it's something that I'm still learning and hopefully getting better at each day. I love that. For me, a definite pattern in my decades of getting things wrong in relationship was that I had an expectation that I would go into a relationship, and if it was right, it would just work. There's that fun saying of if it was meant to be, which I believe in. And I think that as with anything in life, there needs to be an intention, yes, but also action. In my past, I would be in relationships where there was no plan. There was no really even couples mentality of, okay, now we're together and here's how we continue this. Here's how we maintain this. Here's how we grow this. That was never an equation. It was just never on the table. And so I think it's been so awesome and something that we implemented. And this was something that I've wanted to do for a number of years. And it wasn't until Isabella that we actually actioned on this, which was, okay, we like this. There's a lot of natural awesomeness that's happening here. But instead of just letting things unfold and letting things go to chance, how can we take this thing that is already great and not just let it be, not just have a maybe it'll work, maybe it won't timeline? How do we say, all right, let's make this more awesome. Let's make this better. Let's make this juicier. What do we need to do? And so I think that that is huge. And it takes, from my perspective, in the way that I grew up, and I don't know if this is just something from the States or something from my generation, but it takes a total paradigm shift of this is a relationship, and to make it work, it requires effort. Not work. I don't love using that word, but it definitely requires effort to ensure that this thing, which we both are saying we love and we hold dear, we want to keep it that way and we want to grow it. And I love that we're years down the road now, and it feels just as precious and it feels just as juicy, which is awesome. So I mean, like there are other things that I think are important for a relationship, but like that for me is, at least certainly the way that I grew up and the beliefs that I had about relationship, that's been like the biggest game changer.
So to give you 3 examples of what Charles was talking about, because the 3 of us, we all come from a business background, copywriters, business owners. So we implemented the principles behind what makes a business work into a relationship, such as businesses do Scrum, which is a 2-week planning of projects that need to be done. And you assign timeline and you assign the team member who's in charge of bringing each project to the finish line. So we do that for a relationship. So every week we have what we call the State of the Union check-in. So we talk about our appreciations for our partners, what they did last week that was really nice, what's really going well in our relationship, and any concerns and things that we want to address from last week. And then how can we move forward? We find a solution, we implement a new system, and we talk about how we can make each other feel loved for the next week. So we've been doing that.
It's awesome.
And also very important, do date nights and put sex on your calendar as well.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's so busy nowadays. And especially with us, we do our main work and freelance and additional work and kids. Just like, okay, how do you maintain intimacy in this busy schedule? And I think a lot of people, if you don't plan it, you're planning to fail, right? Then you just get through your day, you handle all of the urgent stuff. Even though your sex life, your intimacy is important, it might not be as urgent as, shopping or food needs to get made or kids need to be sent somewhere. And then you wait till the end of the day, you're both tired. You're like, okay, do we do it? Do we not do it? Never mind. And then, so we implemented putting out the calendar.
That is super smart.
Yeah, I highly recommend couples out there try it. It might feel a bit weird at first because we were like, how do you get in the mood? You just put it on the calendar. Like, and the trick is you don't need to be in the mood at first you just decide that, okay, we're gonna get frisky. We're gonna get naked and see what happens. And then you will feel it. You'll be in the mood.
I love that you just said that, because so many, and that might be my autism, but I think that people are acting way too much animalistic and, oh, if I feel it, I feel it. But if you wait for your emotions to give you a hint in a time where you are emotionally overwhelmed or drained, it will never fucking work. We are humans for a reason with the ability to decide mind over matter. And in Germany, we say, der Hunger kommt beim Essen, meaning you get hungry while you eat, right? And that's exactly that. The art of seduction is a lost art. Yeah, of course. You like it's something you can look forward to. You can even think of how do we do it differently this time, or like how maybe something to surprise somebody, right? Yeah, I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think part of what makes it work is that the times on the schedule are not the only moments that we're showing affection for each other. We're being playful on a continuum. So I think that's what makes it possible for us to like, okay, it's easier to decide because there's not a lack of feeling wanted or feeling desired, because it just kind of happens on a continuum. But Adam, I want to know from you, I'm curious to know from you now, because I feel like we've been talking quite a bit. So
oh, that's awesome. I love listening to that. That is so valuable, guys. Like, no joke. This is amazing. And I hope everybody who listens to this leaves you some love in the comments, because that's fantastic.
Well, thank you. And I would love to know from you, what are the things that you found that are foundationally crucial for a relationship to work?
I'm hoping I will be as concise as possible, because like I've been with my wife now for exactly 6 years, 10 months, and 3 days, almost to the hour. And
Wow.
the thing is this, that I realized, and by the way, we have been together for the time we didn't have a single fight, no arguments, no nothing. It's like perfect harmony from the get-go. And that's the first time that I had this with a person, right? And I know it's very rare. Almost everybody fights here and there, right? Almost. But basically what I found makes this perfect is not trying to get in a relationship, trying to change somebody. This is the first thing, because I see so many people, and like it's even a cliche by now that, yeah, the man and the woman come together, the woman tries to change the man until she doesn't recognize him anymore, then she leaves him and gets the next guy, right? In this one story where you have this biker dude that is wild and free, and then over the years she changes him, so he shaves his beard, he shaves his hair, instead of the biker clothes he's wearing a suit and pullovers, and then he becomes boring, he doesn't go out anymore, then she feels bored by him and runs away with a biker guy, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna buy you like a hat because you feel cold after you cut your hair, man. Like that, right? And I feel that it makes more sense to be very, very strict with what you expect from a person to be and do not go below the standards. And I see this especially on these alpha male podcasts where they criticize women for keeping like this long laundry lists of what they expect a man to have and compared to how little a man expects. And I think it's not wrong to have a list. You just have to be able to back it up. For example, I had 200 different points that I was expecting, not just in my partner, but in a human that I want to have in such an intimate relationship with. And I graded it. You do it you have your relationship like a business. I did the same thing, like a matrix for what I expect. I have the must-haves and the no-goes. And those things, they are pretty much law. That makes it very easy, because sometimes people stay in bad relationships that are not savable because they just like have this sunken cost fallacy of like, I tried so long and now it has to work. But I have very clear must-haves, and some of them might look superficial or weird, but if they are not there, the relationship is done for. It doesn't matter. For example, one of my must-haves, of course, is being faithful, right? One of my must-haves actually is that by herself, she wants to have long hair, because I just hate short hair so much. When I grew up, my mom had long hair. Maybe that is how it primed me that I feel just like long hair is something special. And I always had this natural drawn to people who are different. I always loved the outcasts, the people that are not the norm. And that has been growing stronger over the years. I think everybody can have short hair, and it's fucking boring. And I like back then I even said, like, if I want to fuck somebody with short hair, I fuck a man. Quite a radical take, I know. But basically, like, I feel like this is pretty sure that it's my autism, but when I take a look at what I want from somebody appearance-wise, for example, I don't like pants. The moment a woman is willing to wear jeans and just has them at home, all attractiveness is gone. Immediately drained, because jeans are the most boring thing that you can wear. And like, I mean, you see, like, I'm not the kind of person who wears normal shit. And yeah, but the must-have was that it is her own will, that she hates pants by herself, because I don't want to have to change somebody. I want a person who is naturally like that. And everybody will say, are you crazy? You will never find a person like that. Everybody wears jeans. Well, my wife hates them. She only wears dresses and skirts. So You just have to be picky with that. But the reason is not just like, oh yeah, I like because it's feminine. No, for me, the appearance tells me something about the person. For example, a woman who wants to have long hair by herself means she's willing to put an effort into herself, which assumes the person has to have some kind of level of self-respect and self-love because she's willing to put in a lot of effort to herself. Because she wants to have it by herself, and not for me, it's something that she wants to do by herself.
Yeah.
So that shows that it's like what you talked about before. It's like you are happy with yourself by yourself. You don't need somebody else to tell you. That's that. And I'm also looking if somebody enjoys looking good at their best self, however, what it means for them. So I'm not saying that everybody who has short hair is like a lazy piece of shit, but it is easier to live like that, right? So
can I ask a
basically
question?
that's oh yeah, sure.
When you're making that list, are you aware that when you're saying I want somebody who wants long hair, you're aware what that want means to you?
Yes. I'm very intentional. When I made this matrix, I always say it this way. When you do a matrix like this, be extremely specific. And think about it like if a genie would suddenly appear out of nowhere, it would create the perfect person for you based on that list. And the genie was a prankster. How could he mess this up?
Yeah.
And like that is very, very simple. For example, Charles, give me a few things that you would like in a partner that you would, for example, write down. Anything.
Consideration, respect, sense of humor.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, here you go. She's very considerate, but of everybody except you.
Yep.
She has a sense of humor, but it's so fucking morbid that you feel offended every time she opens her mouth. And she has a lot of respect just for the people that you absolutely hate.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so that's why I become so specific to the very detail that it's impossible to fuck this up. For example, I even said, hey, I want long hair, but what does long hair mean? When she thinks that shoulder length is long because she always had short hair before, still not happy for me. I have the minimum here, and then she wants to be there and stuff like that. And it's acceptable if somebody doesn't have long hair but wants it, and for some reason something happened. For example, my wife found this veloterapia, this Brazilian hair cutting thing. But they promised her the hair will not get shorter. They just remove the broken hairs, and so they can grow better. And what did they do? She had hair like this, and they cut it to here without her consent. She was crying all day. I was furious with those people, right? But would I have now said, oh, wait, in my decision matrix it says short hair is a no-go. I'm gonna dump you now. No, because the no-go is short hair out of her own will.
Yeah.
The acceptable is short hair without her own will, just something happened. You can always have an accident and stuff, right? But she wanted to grow it, and now it's super fucking long. It's amazing. That's what this is about, right? Being very intentional. So the number one thing is have a very clear list of what you expect from a partner. But I agree, especially with Isabella, be the kind of person to attract somebody like that. You cannot just say, I want the world and not being able to give it. And when I had my dating profile up, it was on OkCupid, by the way, not sponsored. But
Yes.
I had this super long list of what I'm also willing to give, gave a very clear breakdown of how this, and I promised her, you will never be bored with me. We will change the world together. And guess what? We are exactly doing that. I brought her into copywriting, into marketing, and we are literally working with a company that is changing lives every single day, right? Stuff like that. So that's the first thing. Be very, very specific and be not willing to go below anything. Number two, what makes a great relationship is having rituals. Constant rituals. Like you guys have the Scrum and the monthly goals and that, and putting sex in the calendar and all. We have our gratitude ritual. Every evening, we thank each other for the day and specifically mention everything we did for each other and thank each other for it. This way, you never take the other person for granted. Because if you take somebody for granted, playing it to the extreme, sooner or later, they will feel resentment because you don't appreciate them. They will not feel loved. They will not feel wanted. And resentment is the end of relationships.
Yeah, I love that. Can I ask,
Yeah.
In previous relationships, did you have an appreciation ritual like that?
No. And it was a big problem. In retrospect, I realized it was a huge problem because it became very easy. It's so easy to figure out what mistakes somebody else has, but it's very hard to be grateful for what people actually are doing. And even just the smallest things like, hey, thanks for bringing me that meat, or thanks for making me the tea. Thank you for caring for our cat while I was gone. Even the things that are the same every single day, we still thank each other for it, because just because you do it every day doesn't mean it's been taken for granted, especially if you do it every day.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that.
That's the second thing that's super important. Number one, be very intentional. Number two, have gratitude and appreciation rituals. Also, we have a lot in common, of course. And we have a lot of affection throughout the day, like constant hugs, constant kisses, constantly telling each other how much we love each other. And this is a special tip. Be absolutely extreme in your affirmations. I know that my wife likes affirmation, and she knows that I would never, ever cheat on her, ever, right? I would rather cut my dick off than do that. But at the same time, still, I give her a very clear view of how much she means to me on a constant basis. And she knows that. For example, she knows that if anybody would ever tell her, hey, Adam cheated on you, her first question would be, did the girl wear pants? And they have to say yes, and like, yeah, not gonna happen. She knows how extreme I am and my beliefs in this, that she knows she can trust me no matter what. And I also tell her, if I would compare her to any other woman, no offense, but if I compare my wife to any other woman, it's like comparing dirty toilet water to Fiji water, like directly out of the spring, right?
Not
Because
sponsored.
not sponsored. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's exactly this. The person you are with should literally be the only person fitting your requirements. And I'm very extreme in letting her know that every single day, because there is literally nobody who would fit this profile. And by the way, this is something that I also gave as an advice to a friend of mine. She consistently has bad choices in her relationships. Every single time I tell her the guy is an asshole, you shouldn't go with that, she still does it. And in the end, I tell her, I told you so. It's almost like a running gag. She actually gave me a t-shirt for Christmas where it said like, he told me so. Like literally that, because it happens so often. And yeah, that's basically that. Be very, very exclusive in what you say that you want. For example, she asked me, why do I find the wrong people all the time? It's like, tell me what you want in a person. And she gave me specific adjectives, like I want somebody who's reliable, that I can talk to, that I can come home to, somebody who cares for me, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? Cool. You pretty much described me right now. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not saying that you are in love with me. This describes not only me, it describes every single friend you have. It describes Lisa. It describes everybody who just slightly cares about you. And if your requirements fit multiple people will be attracted to you. So you have to be extremely narrow. And yeah, sure, I was single 5 years before I found my wife, but now I have a life of bliss with her, and that's fucking worth it.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like a mathematical equation, right? 1x for 1y. There cannot be 2 y's for 1x. It doesn't fit together. So you have to be absolutely restrictive in what you expect in a partner, but then you will appreciate them more. Because today's culture is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna date them until I find something better. Fuck you, no. You date somebody because you want to date them for a reason, not because you will find something better anyway. No, that's not how it works. So that's those 3 things that I would say is absolutely crucial for a great relationship. And also having the ability to walk away. That's a powerful thing. Because if you have the ability to walk away at any time, then you are together by choice. There's no codependency. It's like, I'm together with my wife because I want to. She's together with me because she wants to. She's not dependent on me. It's not because she owes me something or vice versa. I have a friend and I asked her why she married her husband. They are divorced now. And she said, yeah, well, we had a bad time together. We brought each other through it. And so we married because we helped each other. Yeah, that's not going to last. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. So yeah, that are my few takes on that.
I love that you have the proof to back that up. As you said, you can have a list of wants and leave it general because you think that that's casting a wider net. But if you really want something that's real and that's good and that's supportive and that is like literally checking all the boxes that you want, it's so important to get specific and hold to that standard. My God.
Yeah.
I think just think that's amazing.
Thank you. Oh, one more thing that I can add to that. I would also say, like, one of the most important things that I realized that makes a relationship powerful, even if you had a lot of baggage or a lot of problems before, is do not blame the peach that the apple was sour. What I mean by that is this. So many people are like, oh yeah, I don't want a woman with a lot of baggage because she can't bond properly. Or like, I don't want a player who did a lot of stuff and I got cheated on by all my previous partners, so probably the next one's going to cheat too. No, it might not be easy to give somebody new a clean slate. But the thing is this, you cannot blame your current partner for the mistakes of the previous ones. That's not how this works. And if you attract the same kind of person all the time, it's on you. And no, that's not victim blaming. It's just simple. It's a simple rule of society. The way you are is who you attract.
Yep.
And your standards, seriously, if you had 8 partners, every single one cheated on you, you have shitty fucking standards. Because first time, shame on them. Second time, maybe still shame on them. Third, fourth, fifth time, Are you into this or something? Right? It doesn't work like that. So be very, very clear. For example, I do not care about the past of the people that I've been with. I care about who are they now. And sure, if I realize, okay, they had a history of cheating, sure, I will ask them before I go in a relationship, like, hey, you have this history with this. Tell me a little bit more about it. What is different now? What happened? I appreciate the ability to change in people. Are you aware of what the Pygmalion effect is?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's awesome. The Pygmalion effect is something so fucking powerful that everybody who listens to this, I highly recommend you implement it in your life as well. It will make your relationships 10 times better. Basically, it is based on this Greek story of this amazing artist called Pygmalion. And this guy was so talented that he could create the most beautiful sculptures. And one day, he created a sculpture that was so realistic of a woman that he fell in love with her. And he completely fell in love with it. And the goddess of love, and depending if you heard it in the Greek or the Roman version, it's either Aphrodite or it's Venus, realized she was the goddess of beauty and love, right? And sex. And she was like, you know what? I want to reward you, mortal, for creating such beauty. And she transformed the stone statue in a real person. And of course, Pygmalion was overjoyed, like the woman he loves, and they were perfect together. The problem was the stone statue was aware of how beautiful she was. And so she thought, oh, I'm the most beautiful. I'm even more beautiful than the goddess of love. Nobody got shit on me. And this arrogance angered the goddess, and she transformed her back to stone. And this story was the name giver for an experiment they did later on, where they basically made the thesis that if you have a subconscious expectation for somebody, they will become that. Just like Pygmalion had the expectation that his woman will become real, people will subconsciously follow what you think of them. And they actually proved that. There was an experiment where they had like they tested 100 children for intelligence, and they created a school class out of the average of people who had 100 IQ. 30 children, 100 IQ each. And they told the teacher, and they divided them into group A and B at random. So completely randomized stuff, right? And they told the teacher that the children in group A are like hyper geniuses. Like they're so smart, the next Einsteins, the next like crazy, super smart people. And group B, yeah, like they're dumb, like super dumb. But they told them, treat them the same, teach them the same, equality. We want to test what happens if you put super smart and not so smart children together. And the teacher didn't know. They actually tested if he was treating them the same and stuff. Here's the thing. After 1 year, the IQ of the children in the group A increased by 20 points. So they literally jumped from average to highly intelligent, while the group B dropped in intelligence because of the subconscious expectation the teacher had for them. And the same is true in relationships. If you subconsciously expect that the other person will cheat on you, they will. That's why jealousy is the stupidest thing ever. Being jealous is pretty much the most dumb thing you can be, or it's the smartest thing if you want your relationship to end. Because jealousy just means you have no trust in yourself that you are good enough that the other person wants to stay with you. You have no trust in your partner that they have a free will of their own, that they want to be with you actually. And also, if you don't trust them when they don't cheat on you, why shouldn't they cheat on you? Because your treatment of them is the fucking same. So there's no reason to do that. And so therefore you will push them to cheat on you actually. And in Germany, there's even a beautiful sentence that says, Eifersucht ist die Leidenschaft, die mit Eifersucht was Leidenschaft. And it kind of rhymes in German, but translated means jealousy is an addiction that searches with effort what creates pain.
Huh.
So that's that. And so
Wow.
the Pygmalion effect basically says what your subconscious expectations of another, they will subconsciously become. So if you train yourself to think the very best of the other person and train yourself like a mantra in your head, how great the other person is, you inspire them to greatness. And if you do it both, you push each other. And like constantly, I even have this in my mind, it's automatic. I can't count how many times a day I think like, oh, my wife is the best. She's the greatest wife ever. She's so amazing. Oh my God, I love her so much. I'm so fucking lucky. And because of that, my whole thinking, my whole behavior, everything shifted to even more appreciation for her. Sometimes even catch myself, even after 6 years, right? I'm almost 7. I'm looking at her and just like get lost in thought because she's so beautiful and so amazing to me. And by the way, another take to that. So many people say, oh, we have been together so long, we still love each other. That's stupid. It's completely stupid, especially if you have been together longer. The love should grow. Because here's a question for you guys. If you train martial arts for 10 years, what will happen to your martial arts skill?
Get better.
Should get better.
Exactly. If you play the piano for 10 years, what's going to happen to your piano skill?
You get better.
Yep.
Exactly. So if your relationship doesn't get better after 10 years, why?
Oh,
Haven't been practicing.
yep.
If
That's
the
the
relationship
mindset.
gets worse after 10 years, you did practice something, but you didn't practice having a good relationship.
I love that. So, Adam, if you were going to guide somebody in creating some new neural patterns for how they think about the person that they're with, what would be a good first step?
The perfect first step would be